right. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to welcome you back to another day of the tennis conference presented by USTA Middle States. We've had outstanding participation in this conference so far. We've had some really educational sessions this week and last week. Today, we have something that we're really happy to bring you, something we think will be a highlight for anyone on this call. Before we dive in, though, a few housekeeping items. If you're just joining, continuing education credits will be offered. Just ensure everyone is accounted for. Please enter your first and last name in the chat, and whether you are USPTA, PTR, or both, make sure you put that in the chat as well. If you have any questions, please enter them in the Q&A section of the Zoom box. Although we may not get to all the questions, we're going to do our best to answer as many as possible. All the attendees will be muted, but if you need to speak or clarify or something, we can allow you to talk, but the main avenue of communication will be via chat. As I mentioned today, we have a really outstanding session. Today we're going to go the PTR State of the Union discussion with Dan Santorum and Delaine Mast. This is one of our 4 PTR-led sessions going on during this conference. Hopefully you all are aware of those sessions and can get signed up and attend the several that we have coming up in the next couple weeks. We're lucky to have Dan Santorum join us today. After this presentation, we'll have our local tennis celebrity, Delaine Mast, leading the discussion. We're fortunate to have Delaine in our section and joining us for the call. She's been a huge part of tennis in our section for many years. She's a former Middle States president, longtime USTA board member, and a member of the Middle States Hall of Fame. And that is the trophy she got in her there. So Dan and Delaine, we thank you for joining us here today. We have more than 200 people who have registered for this session. And then moving on to the reason you guys are here. Being on this call, you likely know Dan Santorum. He is the longtime CEO of PTR, where he has seen a tremendous membership increase over the years, building the organization from 2,500 members in 68 countries to nearly 17,000 in 125 countries. I was very impressed to learn that Dan is used to conferences like this, and he's personally conducted over 400 PTR workshops on 6 continents in over 200 cities. World traveler right there. Dan is an accomplished industry professional and also has an impressive playing resume. Local to our section, he was inducted to the Middle States Hall of Fame back in 2015, and he is also sporting his Hall of Fame trophy in the background. I can go on and on about Dan, but we're all here for the purpose of the day is to get on with Dan and Delaine talking about PTR. So with that being said, Dan, I'm going to hand it over to you and take it away.
Well, thanks. And thanks for having us on and including us. When you mentioned the workshops that I've had the privilege of doing, the tennis teacher and coach education workshops, the workshops I've done the most of all the sections in the USTA has been Middle States, even more so than here in Southern, which, as all of you know, is the largest section. So I spent a lot of time in especially in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, Western Pennsylvania, and we see Middle States as a great partner, and just thrilled to be on this program with all of you. And Delaine, I look forward to answering the questions and having a great back and forth conversation with you, so those on board can hear about what PTR is up to.
That's awesome, Dan. Thanks. And thanks everybody for joining us. We are extremely excited to have everybody at least on a Zoom call. Obviously, we would love to see everybody in person. I don't know how many of you lately have felt like you've worked incredibly hard for tennis, but you've kind of been doing it on your own. You know, we've kind of been out on our little island. So it's always nice to get back together and hear what you guys are doing, what you're thinking, what kind of help you need. And the PTR family is here to help you as best we can and make sure that you have as much of the updated information as possible. And with that said, my fellow Hall of Famer, Mr. Santorum, let's get started. Let's jump right in. PTR received our USTA accreditation back in May. Tell us a little bit how things have changed for PTR.
Well, I can tell you one of the things that's changed definitely for the positive is the communication between The USTA at the national, the sectional, and the state level has just been fantastic. And you know, listen, it was a tough 2 years for us. I make the joke, and I'll use a hockey analogy. We were in the penalty box for 2 years, and that wasn't a good place to be. It wasn't good for us, and I don't think it was good for the USTA or for tennis. But the thing is, you know, you heard the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And we've come out of this a lot stronger. And in certain cases, I think maybe that it was a good thing. You can make the case for it because, Delaine, when we went into the 2 years we weren't involved, we were told to increase our education. And that's one thing that, you know, we put our heads down, and Brian Parkinen, who's our COO and was the former director of education, you know, he just did a fantastic job and just upping our game to where we believe it's the best in the country, if not the best in the world. You know, the other thing I think that that happened since the accreditation is the background checks, the safe play, as well as the continuing education. Those are three things that all certified pros moving forward have to make sure that they're in compliance with. And I guess one of the best things about this is that we've had the communication with our members has increased, because we've had to reach out to a lot of our members who, for some reason, you know, weren't able to get their hours in, and we encourage them to get it done. Because if they did get it done, there's free membership courtesy of the USTA and the PTR. So, and I think that the other thing that was important was just a phone call I had recently with Dan Faber from the USTA Foundation. And, you know, we're looking forward to working with them, because there's a lot of good projects out there that we'll be able to talk about here in the next few minutes that are going to be exciting.
That's awesome. I know one of the strengths of the PTR is its PTR Foundation and the ability to help those out there that are running programs and are in need. And I know that they've been able to fund a lot of programs throughout the years and give them some assistance. I think our chairman of the PTR Foundation, I thought I saw Scott type in the chat box that he was here. So I know you can't speak, Scott, but we know you're out there. Scott Tharp is the chair of our PTR Foundation. And we're excited to be able to help programs in need. Again, I don't know about you all, but being out here in the field, I feel like we've needed and needed and needed and needed like we've never needed before. And Dan, I guess I'll say just one point real quick on the certifications and the new process after being accredited. For those of you that are out there that have been around for a long time, as I've reached out to some of those, they kind of thought that, oh, all we need to do is we just need to pay our dues. We haven't paid our dues in a year, so all we have to do is pay our dues and we're good. So I think that, you know, it might be helpful to just explain to them how that's not all you have to do. And what are the processes to actually make sure that you're cleared.
Yeah, it's a totally different process. But before I answer that, Scott, I'm glad you're on. And when I talked with Dan Faber the other day, he mentioned that he'd had talks with Scott, who's the chairman of our PTR Foundation, and seeing if we can all work together for the betterment of tennis. And of course, Scott's a Middle States guy, and so we've got a lot of Middle States blood in the PTR for sure. But the membership has just changed as far as how you stay a member, basically. Before, like you said, you could just pay your dues and that was it. You paid the fees. But now you have to go through the USTA's Net Generation for Safe Play, and get the background check. It's a little bit more difficult in Pennsylvania with the fingerprinting and whatnot, but that seems to be going very well. And the tougher part sometimes is the continuing education, because one of the things that happened because of COVID was tennis, had a boom. And a lot of the pros were working from 7 to 7. I had some people starting as early as 6 and working as late as 9. And so when you get home, the last thing you want to do is turn on a computer and do your continuing education. And bear in mind that that was the only way that you could do it because of COVID. We weren't doing many face-to-face workshops. But one of the things that we did with the COVID is we put together a lot of webinars and a lot of free content for our members to take advantage of and to get their continuing education credits. And so we've got to the end of October, or sorry, the end of September here, and we might have an extension because we want to try to get as many people as members as possible. The USTA has a goal for us for certified members, and we're looking forward to working with the USTA to make that goal.
Thanks. We're talking about strengths, and I know listening to Michael Dowse's session, the opening session for this conference, he talked about diversity and inclusion. Could you talk to us a little bit about the diversity and inclusion efforts on behalf of the PTR and what we're doing to make sure that we stress diversity and inclusion?
Well, diversity and inclusion's always been, it's one of our strengths. There's no doubt about it. Dennis Vandermeer, our founder and president emeritus, from the get-go, he made sure that diversity was embedded in PTR. And one of the things that he did was to make sure that the clinicians that we had were diverse in terms of gender and race. And we were fortunate then in the early 90s to start a program called the ACE program that the USTA supported in the beginning. And our foundation, the PTR Foundation, supported as well. And Arthur Ashe was actually our first ACE program spokesperson. And the ACE program, for the first year we did it, it was a free program. We ended up getting 500 participants that went through the program. And I'll never forget, and I've told this story many times, so forgive me if you've heard it before, but after the first year, Arthur Ashe came to the PTR symposium to speak. And we sat down and he wanted an update on the progress of the ACE program. And, he just started out saying, Dan, how's it going? And I said, well, Arthur, we had 500 people, a lot of good emails and letters from people saying how much they enjoyed it and whatnot. And then he said to me, he said, well, how many of the participants got certified? And I said, well, Arthur, we didn't do the ACE program to try to, to pad our membership. We didn't want to be seen like that or be criticized for that. And he said, Dan, that's not what I asked you. And, here I am, a 30-year-old guy, and Arthur Ashe, who's, he's on my Mount Rushmore of tennis icons. And he asked me that question. I just went, gulp. And I said to him, well, only 10%. And he said, that's not good enough. And he went on to say, he said, black people already have a strike against them because of the color of their skin. Don't give employers another reason to have another strike against them because they don't have the same credentials. So we met with Dennis right after that and the board, and they decided, hey, we're going to do certification. And to Arthur's credit, it was the right thing to do. The program is paid off, and we now have a program called ACE Heroes, and we did it to baseball cards. And we're actually going to feature it in the next Tennis Pro that we have. And just looking back, that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of what we've done here is the diversity inclusion at PTR. And I do want to say to Middle States and some of the other sections that did support it, and a lot of sectional support for the A's program, we can't thank you enough. And Renee has been great there in Middle States, Delaine.
That's awesome. Well, as a female sitting over here, and both of us have worked with Billie Jean, and times the way they are, Billie always says you need at least a third to make a difference. If you want to have a voice, you got to have 33%. So where are we right now on our women's efforts?
Well, you remember, Delaine, we were at the Hyatt at the USTA semi-annual meeting, and the three of us, you, me, and Billie Jean, and she asked that same question, well, as far as women are concerned, at the time we were at 25%, which is not bad. It's an industry leading 25%. But as Billie Jean said right away, Dan, that's not good enough. You need to have a third. And again, as you alluded to, you need a third to make a difference. So we set out as a goal to increase the number of women in PTR. And we're over 26%. It's not where we need to be. We need to do better. It's not like we're not trying, but there are some certain cultural barriers that preclude us from getting to that 33% where we want to get to. Now, on the other side, in terms of race, we were at 27%, and now we just finished this year at 33.9%, which is the highest that we've ever had in the history of PTR. So we've been able to do better on that side, and we're real proud of that. But we started a program called PTRW, the W being for women, and we're going to ramp that up again. We're going to look to work more with the sections to try to help us out with that, because there are a shortage of women pros in this country. Well, there's a shortage of pros altogether, but there's a shortage of women pros. And the reason that we started the ACE program, it came out of a police athletic league survey that said that people of color want to be taught by the same people of color. And the same could be said for gender. Women, a lot of women would rather be taught by women. And we got to do our best to try to get more women to be on the court to work with the students so they can learn the game and get more women tennis players.
Thanks. I know that it has been a challenge, and it's been very important for us to find new programs, new ways to help the teaching pros survive out there. I know there are a lot of pros, maybe some on this call, who when COVID hit realized that they're independent contractors. They don't get to apply for unemployment. They've got to find a way to make their own way. And what has the PTR come up with lately? I know that we've launched some new programs to kind of help the pros broaden their horizon and have some additional offerings. Can you talk about those?
Well, one of the things that we started, and I'll be honest, we didn't really get a chance to see it through, but it's definitely after we get through these requirement stages, we're gonna put more emphasis onto a program called Pick 10, an entry-level program that incorporates pickleball and tennis, because one of the things, the barriers for people learning how to play the game as beginners is, you have to learn as a tennis player to be able to move as well as track and strike the ball. That's not easy. Tennis is a skilled sport, and plus you've got a racket that's extended out from your arm. So what we did was we started out now, instead of using a tennis racket or even a red ball racket, using a paddle, using a pickleball paddle, and using the first 3 lessons to introduce tracking the ball, because in pickleball you don't have to move nearly as much as you do in tennis. and then go from the paddle to the racket, and then you know, a larger size racket depending on the age. But you know, Dennis Vandermeer was always about progressions. In fact, I remember, you know, back in the 80s when I was working for Dennis, you know, he used to saw off rackets, or you know, he would be creative. He would get a coat hanger, and he would put nylons over the coat hanger so it would be a taunt thing, and he would get a foam ball. I mean, this is back in the 80s when Dennis was introducing the foam ball, before foam balls were even in this country. He got it in Japan. And so just creative ways to have the ball closer to the hand to be able to have success. And one of the things about tennis is, Delaine, and you know this because you teach, the sooner that you can get people to have success, the better off is to getting them to stay in our game. Because all the studies that have been done there by the USTA say the number of people that start tennis and quit, it's not something that we can be proud of as a profession, for sure. And it's something that we're always looking for ways to give our pros kind of a new way to do things to make it easier to keep people in our game.
Sure. I had a young kid in our summer NJTL program that wrote us an essay that kind of woke us up a little bit. And he talked about how one of the instructors he really loved because they let him play. And the other instructor he didn't like at all because all he did was drill. All he did was practice and drill and talk. And I was like, okay, we're going to hang this somewhere so that we can all remind ourselves, you know, of what the kids are really looking for, you know, in order to keep playing. Can you talk about the
I mean, tennis has changed from, you know, back in the day, I referred to the 80s, you know, it was, you know, you would teach them how to play the game. And now it's not learn to play, it's play to learn. And you know, that's something that we've been espousing in all of our education. And that's really important because, and I'll go back real quick again to Dennis, because you know, that's where I cut my teeth, as they say, and learn from the greatest coach ever. And he had a thing called instant tennis, and it's something that it stood the test of time, where you could go out and in a couple of minutes, you could teach someone how to go through all the strokes in tennis and get them to rally. The one thing that we know, Delaine, is the sooner that you can get someone to rally, the chances increase exponentially that they're going to stay in the game, because they want to have fun, and they don't want to stand in line and wait 3 to 4 minutes before it's their turn. And if they have a bad shot, well, it's 3 to 4 minutes they're thinking about it, and you know, that's just not fun. And one of the things that we've always tried to emphasize is those intangibles, and making sure that the students are having fun. And when we do our certification workshops and we do the testing, one of the things that we do test is the personality, because sure, you need to have the knowledge, but you know, I've told many people this, the most important part of a teacher is right here. And if you have heart and you have passion, then you can inspire your students. I've always said passionate teachers inspire their students, and that keeps people in the game. You know, eventually, especially kids, you know, they figure it out. And so if you can make it fun from the beginning and have a lot of games out there, and wrap up your practices and lessons with fun activities, that's going to keep people in the game. And that's what we're charged with doing as an industry, is making it fun for people and make sure it becomes a sport for a lifetime.
Awesome. So Dan, as far as the teaching pros are concerned, the coaches, I like coaches better than teaching pros.
Yeah, that's a Billie Jean. That's a Billie Jean term. I love it too.
Yeah.
I mean, do you realize that the United States, and sorry to cut you off there, Delaine, but this is important. The United States is the only country that doesn't call them coaches. they're called professionals here, and of course we are professional, but I like the term coach, and we've been using a lot as you've noticed. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to ask you what other offerings. I know we're on the tennis call, but one of the things that with PPR and the new PPTR that was just launched, do you want to talk about that for a couple seconds and just let people know what's out there?
Yeah, I mean, the PPR is the pickleball end of it, and that launched about a little bit over 2 years ago, and it's just blown up, and it's doing fantastic. And Delaine, we see pickleball and tennis as two sports that are more and more now working together. In the beginning, you couldn't even say pickleball at a USTA event, and now they're thinking of putting in pickleball courts. Well, not thinking. I've seen the designs at Lake Nona and other places, because you can double them as red ball courts too, and so it's a complementary sport for those people, and for those tennis players that eventually can't move and whatnot, they can stay and they can play pickleball, and that's important because let's say you're over 65, you've been playing tennis for 40 years, and your knees are bad or your hips bad, and you just really can't move laterally as much, and you have to quit playing tennis, and that's sad for an individual. But with pickleball, that gives them a way to stay at the tennis facility and come out and be with their friends, and it helps the tennis facility. And the same could be said for platform. The healthier that the tennis facility is, public or private, the better the sport of tennis is going to be. And we just started the platform tennis, and we're excited about it. Of course, there in Middle States, in the Northeast and the Midwest, paddle is really big, and it's and with COVID, it's outside, so that's going to be, I think, a big help too for clubs as well. Our biggest probably concern, going into the indoor season is, how COVID's going to be affected with the indoor clubs. But anyway, there are a lot of pros now in the Northeast and the Midwest that are required to get a job and to be directors. You have to have all three. So what we've done is we've done it to help our coaches, and it helps all three sports, and just makes the club stronger, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, that's true. What do you think are a few of the big challenges ahead of us, and maybe talk about some of the changes that we've gone through at the PTR and also at the USTA, some of the things Mike Dowse has done, that's going to help us get through some of these challenges that you see?
Yeah, well, I can just tell you, Mike Dowse has been a breath of fresh air coming in, and he's done a lot of things. And the first thing is he improved the communication. I actually talked with Mike before he even started the job, and we've had several meetings, and in terms of communication, he formed a Tennis Industry United group, which actually is meeting today at 2:00. But he put that together, and Mike is about partnerships, and Mike realizes that if you partner together, you can get a lot more accomplished than trying to do it yourself. I mean, the USTA of the past had this tendency to try to do things themselves and try to own everything, and it just didn't work as efficiently as it should. And to Mike's credit, he came in and he did a lot of research, and now the industry is united, and a lot of thanks goes to Mike. he's also made changes, as most of you know, in the USTA staff. And it's a little bit leaner of a staff, but you know, when the ITF did a similar thing back in the late 90s, it had a tremendous positive effect, and we believe it will have a positive effect with the USTA. They promoted from within, and some people took early retirement, but I think you're going to see some good things coming from the staff. Mike also took on and his staff the U.S. Open when a lot of people said you're crazy, and you know, all of us, we saw the Open, and you know, it looked like it was so easy to do. I can't imagine all the things that they had to do as a staff, Stacy and her team, to get this to be as successful as it was. And you know, hats off to them, and just want to say thank you for them doing that for the game of tennis. And you know, Mike is one of these people. Is one of the first things he did. He came to the PTR symposium, and we haven't had the CEO from the USTA come to our symposium in several years. And Mike came, he participated, he interacted with our members, and I think Mike left with a good impression of what PTR is. And Delaine, you know this, PTR is a family, and it's a special organization, and I think Mike left with a very positive impression. He met with our board, and he was very open, and we were very open with him as well, because like I say, those 2 years before weren't the easiest of times for us, but he took everything and went back, and was very helpful for us getting our accreditation in May, which you know, was almost a 2-year process, as you know, Delaine, because you were on the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always there are 3 things that Billy says will help you through life, and I live by them every day. And one of them is relationships is everything. The second one is never stop learning, and the third one is always be part of the solution. And I will tell you now more than ever, I mean, the partnerships, all of those things have been critical, even for those of us that are on the ground, just trying to play a high school match when the kids are not even going to school. You know, we need help from a lot of different places we've never had to ask for help from before. And those 3 things seem to kind of take care of almost any kind of challenge that gets put in front of you.
Yeah.
But I know we at the local level have been very appreciative about everybody pitching in and everybody trying to work together. And it's just a different atmosphere than it has been. And I know I'm excited. I know, you know, the people I work with are excited. I know we at the PTR are excited. So,
Yeah, you know, and one of those challenges, Delaine, is it's going to be a whole new education system that we've had a lot of tremendous input into, and you know, you'll see that come out shortly. And we're very hopeful that there's going to be an online component, because you know, it's been difficult for us as an organization because we haven't been able to get out there and do as many workshops for a multitude of reasons because of the coronavirus. And the sad thing is there's a lot of high school juniors and seniors and college kids that are home now, and they're doing online courses, and a lot of them are wanting to do an online course to get their certification. And a lot of NGBs, national governing bodies, are doing online certification, and we're working with the USTA to try to have that happen in tennis, because you know, as I mentioned earlier, there is a shortage of coaches in some places, and a lot of pros, they can't teach unless they're certified. And you know, so we're very hopeful, looking forward, that this this new education is going to be a big boon for tennis and for coaches in general.
That's awesome. Well, I know we want to take some questions from that are out there. We want to know what you want to know about. But I guess my last question to ask you, Dan, is if you look into your crystal ball, what's your outlook for tennis and the PTR for the next 5 years or so?
Well, I mean, one of the things, Delaine, is that one of the goals for this Tennis Industry United Task Force is to get 30,000 certified tennis professionals.
Wow.
Now, that's, you know, we're not even to 15,000 at this point, and that's within a 5-year period. And the reason is they've done some surveys, and, you know, compared to other countries, developed countries, we don't have near the number of coaches per players. And some could make the argument maybe that's why, well, we're not doing as well in the professional ranks. And I don't buy that argument because, you know, you look at the US Open, and then on the women's side, I mean, we're dominating, and we're going to dominate for a long time. And that's thanks in part to Title IX in college tennis, which is really strong. So, you know, we see the men's, it's just a little bit, you know, of a different nut to crack. It's not to say that we've got great people that coach our women, but we don't have great people that coach our men. It's just that we're attracting better athletes for the women versus on the men's side. And like I say, we're going to continue to draw the top level women athletes, if not the top. So that's a good thing. I know Martin Blackman at Player Development, they've restructured. I know that's something that they're going to be working on, and it's trying just to get better male athletes into the sport here in the United States. That's one of the challenges looking into the crystal ball to have here in the United States. I think tennis, COVID is as I mentioned earlier, is going to be something that really is going to help our sport. You've seen those surveys that tennis is one of the healthiest things that you can do in this COVID environment. Come on, you're 78 feet apart, and you know, you're outside, or even if you're indoors. I mean, you know, it's not like the ceiling's a 10-foot ceiling. I mean, there's a lot of open air there. There's a lot of those ventilation systems that they have. I mean, there's a lot of air going through. I don't see the worry so much with the indoor. I think keep a positive attitude as long as you keep up the hygiene and precautions. I think you're going to see tennis do very well in the indoor season up north.
I think I actually feel like tennis is positioned in a place that we've never been before, where we can capitalize on. I know the high school workshop we were on the other day, the webinar, there was a gentleman who was a no-cut coach, and he had 75 boys on his team, but the school had told him he can only keep 12 because of COVID. And so he's like, what do I do? You know, and we're, you know, in my mind, it's like, okay, how can you keep the other 60 kids playing, you know, and 63 kids playing and not lose them? So he's setting up a junior team tennis league, you know, so all those kids can continue to play, even though they're not going to get to be on a bus traveling to matches and things like that. But in the same breath, some of the schools that were shut down on sports like contact sports, soccer, field hockey, etc., those guys came over to tennis and started saying, how do we play tennis? We don't have a season this year. We have no soccer this year. How can we play on the tennis team? What can we do? So I think we're actually in a great position to actually build our base and get more people exposed to the sport that might not have tried it before. So I hope we don't miss the wave.
No, well, we can't. I can tell you the industry statistics are positive from the manufacturer's point of view. I mean, go into a Walmart or Target, you know, sometimes the tennis equipment's sold out, and especially entry level. And because of COVID, one of the things that PTR did was that we wanted to reach out and stay in touch with our members, see how they were doing, and you know, I talked to a lot of pros this summer when I could get them. I left a lot of messages because, again, they were on the court. When they called back, one of the questions that I asked them, Delaine, was, what percentage of your students are actually new or coming back to the game? And it was as low as 15% and as high as 80%. One
Wow.
even, I should say, even said 90%. It was just amazing, the number of new people, because it was safe, because, you know, you didn't really have to travel far to do it. And like you say, we definitely need to take advantage of it, and make sure that we have programming for these new players, so they can stay in the game, the junior team tennis, and those that do go off to college, the club tennis, and so forth. So got to keep it rolling, Delaine.
That's right. Just keep our sleeves rolled up and keep moving. So I think what we would like to do is to open it up to you all to answer any questions. I think, Evan, I'll throw it back to you, and you can let us know if there are any questions out there that we can help with.
Got a couple. We'll start out with first one right here. What are some of PTR's outreach methods to attract coaches, diverse and women coaches?
Well, as far as diverse coaches, in terms of race, we've got our ACE program. And the ACE program, we're doing a workshop, our next ACE workshops in Columbia, South Carolina. And USTA South Carolina and USTA Southern are supporting it. It actually is going to be free of charge, this one. And needless to say, the workshop is filled. And one of the things that PTR offers, Evan, is not only the education and the certification, but the networking opportunity that comes with that. And we share these lists with the states. We share it with the sections. And because it's a way, again, if they have to give the 10 hours back, they can reach out to these coaches of color and have them help in a junior team tennis program, or a NJTL, or a high school. Maybe, Delaine, you could reach out and get somebody to come out and help with your high school program. So the ACE program, which, like I say, has been going since 1990, is alive and well. We look forward to working with the USTA Foundation and our foundation, the PTR Foundation, to really ramp it up, because you know, a lot of people. My daughter graduated in May, and she finally did get a job, but it was 3 months, and she had a great resume. A lot of people are looking for jobs. And what a better job for someone that plays tennis than to do something you love, and never work a day in your life. Because I can tell you one thing, it beats flipping burgers at McDonald's, and going out in the court and interacting and learning a trade. And it is a trade that you can learn. And it's a trade that can lead to other positive things later on in life, because you meet so many influential people when you are teaching tennis, no matter where you're teaching tennis. In terms of women, we have a program called PTRW, and again, the W is for women, and it's again, we offer a discount to incentivize women to get certified. So those are two quality programs that we have that have, you know, led us to being the leaders in our industry in terms of gender and race. And we know 99% 99.9% of our gender, 99.99% of our gender, and we know 99.1% of our race. And the reason we do is because if you don't pay attention to your demographics, you don't know who you're serving. And it's important to know who you're serving. And when UST Middle States, when Renee calls and said, I'd like to have a list of all the African-American coaches in Middle States to reach out to a program that we've got, or an Hispanic program or an Asian program, we're able to do that. And it's something that we started it back in 1988. And we didn't have 99.1, you know, when we started out, we probably had, I think it was about 20%, but year over year, we built that database, and it's something that has enabled us to help the states, the sections, and national, to help better serve diverse populations.
Well, I know those, Evan, I know those of us, I know I've served, I don't know, a term as the chair of the Women's Committee. And I know that the women that are in that group took it upon themselves to actually go out and really try to recruit more women, because there are a lot of people out there who, you know, whatever they do, maybe they work half a day, maybe they teach, maybe they're a stay-at-home mom, but they don't realize that there are opportunities out there where they can teach and they don't have to do it full time. You know, they can coach a high school team after school for 6 weeks. They can help with the summer program, you know. So just letting people know that there are a lot of different options out there, I think, is also critical, because just because you go in and get certified doesn't mean you have to become a full-time teaching professional. There are lots of different opportunities that are out there.
You know, the other thing too, Delaine, and you know this, we recently started a PTR D&I task force chaired by Rodney Harmon, our immediate past president. And Rodney, as you know, worked for many years is in player development with the USTA, and was an Olympic coach, and is now the head coach for the women at Georgia Tech. And so Rodney, you know, has a diverse tennis background. And when we put this group together, it's a group of 9 people. And we put it into 3 different areas. One was college tennis. The other was public tennis, park and rec, the NJTL area. And the other one was commercial and private clubs. Because if you're trying to get more coaches of color in college, I can tell you, I can count the number of Division I coaches of color that are women on one hand. That's a disgrace. Yeah. And you look at football, which recently at the University of Maryland, their head coach started a diversity task force for football coaches that includes Nick Saban and Mike Tomlin for the Steelers, and other important people. We're looking to do the same, working with the ITA for college coaches. And we're looking to partner with Dan Faber and the USTA when it comes to the NJTL and Park and Rec, because let's be honest, and Danny even said it, most of the NJTL coaches in this country are PTR. Why? It's because of the ACE program. It's because, you know, we are by far the most diverse organization out there, and you know, we've got a great network, and not to mention great education. So so that task force is real important. So on the park and rec and the club level, we want to get more directors of tennis that are coaches of color. But you just can't, you know, you got to start, you know, as an assistant pro and work your way up. So when we're starting with this, we're going to start in the ground level. And this isn't just a one-year project. This is a project that's going to start, and where you go from an assistant pro to maybe a director of junior of 10 and under, and to the head pro, and then to the director of tennis and director of rackets. And on the college side, you could start as a, you know, maybe in the HBCU where you're a head coach. And the sad thing is, most of the HBCU coaches, they stay HBCU coaches. And that's just wrong. They should be able to assimilate in into becoming assistant coaches at Power 5 or head coaches at non-Power 5 schools. And so that's what this task force is aimed at doing, is providing opportunities for coaches of color to advance in their careers and be role models for those coming in the next generation. So we're real proud of that, and something that we're really looking forward to doing, Delaine.
Yep.
Wow, that's great point right there. Going off of that, we had a couple other things come up having to do with women in coaching tennis. Wanted you guys to touch on, first off, Dan, do you know how many members you guys currently have with PTRW?
Well, PTRW, I mean, that's the number of women. I mean, it's a program, PTRW Evans, aimed at getting people into tennis through this this educational program. Okay, but
Okay.
like I say, the number of women we have is just over 26%, and you know, we've got 9,000 members, so you can do the math. And it's again, it's something that Delaine's on our women's committee, and we're trying everything we can to entice more women. And I think what needs to happen, Evan, is that the facilities need to be more open to part-time help, where if a woman isn't able to devote full-time and it's only part-time, that's really important, because if you can get a woman to devote part-time after school, that's when most of the lessons are done anyway. So that's definitely something that you know, that we are promoting, and Delaine, I think it's something we need to talk about. We've done the D&I on in terms of race. We need to do this D&I task force in terms of gender, and in essence the same thing. Let's get more women involved at the lower level and let them work their way up, because although it's better than in terms of race, there still needs to be more directors of tennis that are women in this country, because like you say, women like to look across the net and see that there's another woman there that's teaching
Well,
them.
and Dan,
So.
you know, one of the things that I've been really proud of with PTR is how much exposure we give to the women when it comes time for the symposium, and we look at speakers and we look at people doing presentations. And I mean, there's some incredible women sitting on this call right now that have been presenters and done, you know, some phenomenal things. And we really try hard to find those people that are out there that have something to offer, because again, if women see other women that have succeeded and they've had the opportunity to present what they're doing, it just helps get more people excited.
No, and the other thing too, Delaine, and you're one of 3 women on the PTR board. 33%. We have 9 board members. 70% of my staff are women. When you look at our clinicians, a third of our clinicians are women. You know, we have an eye on that to try to show that we are promoting women in our organization. And this past year, as you mentioned at the symposium, which by the way, it's hard to believe, Delaine, but that's the last tennis conference that happened. And that's in February, and we've got a board meeting on Wednesday to see if it'll be the first one to have in person this February, but we'll see. But we had the most women speakers at the symposium in February than ever, and we definitely keep a close eye to make sure that we do that, both in terms of gender and race.
Well, and Evan, we also reach out to we work with the Women's Tennis Coaches Association, and we work with the WTA. And so there are a lot of different layers of ways to work and outreach. And so we've been trying with each of those to make things smoother and more inclusive, so that coaches that are maybe coming off the tour that want to learn more about becoming a coach instead of a player, the players that come off the tour,
Well,
things like that. How can we invite them in, and how can we help them get through the process?
no, and you brought up a good point, Delaine. We have an official partnership with the WTA, and we don't have one with the ATP. And our relationship with the WTA is on their tour coach program. Brian's put together a great program for the WTA tour coaches, and it's something that we've worked really hard with, and we're looking to expanding our relationship with the WTA.
That's great. I remember back in '08 when I got PTR certified, my clinician was a female. So that just it's not something that's been only done within the past couple of years with you guys. It's been something that's been obviously on your mind for a while. I definitely know. Last question here. What are the elements of continued education? So do you guys have some things that you look for when you're offering continuing education credits and stuff like that?
Well, the continuing education right now, Evan, that we got hundreds of hours of videos that have questions embedded, because in order to get credit, you have to take the test, because otherwise you could flip on your computer and just go through it and go watch TV. But so you have to answer a series of 3 questions, and they're not easy questions, and then you get credit for what you've done. And if you don't answer 2 of the 3 questions correctly, you don't get credit for that hour. And so in this COVID era, Evan, that's been very helpful, because again, we just don't have as many face-to-face workshops as we've had in the past. And we also have some of the continuing education is in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking members. So we're able to, on that diversity issue, make sure that we enable to help them get their continuing education, those that speak Spanish, because we definitely have a lot of members who speak Spanish, because one of the things about our organization, we have a number of people that are PTR members that weren't born in this country. And the reason that they're PTR members is because they got certified when we visited now it's 131 countries. And so when they came to this country, they kept their PTR certification, and they've been a tremendous help in an industry that I've said several times already that there's a shortage.
Well, and I think our classes, just because of the partnerships and relationships, for example, Judy Murray and her program, and we have a partnership with them. That continuing education piece is critical. Emma Doyle does. I think what's cool about our continuing ed is we have it broken down into different areas, so that people can go, if you want to learn more about the mental game, if you want to learn more about the business side, if you want, I think that that's very helpful. And we've had some great partnerships recently who have really added a lot to the sports science. And again, with Brian's leadership, Brian's done a bang up job of just getting additional courses, lots of things to pick from. So.
And you mentioned Judy Murray and her Mishits program that we have, and Carol Waite is going to be doing a workshop in Greenwich, Connecticut, a Mishits program. So it's something, it's in early October. If you haven't signed up, get signed up for it. It will be a face-to-face. And Emma Doyle, who's doing a lot of great things. And you look back at a lot of the women presenters that are out there now, like Judy and Emma, and guess where they started their lecturing in this country? It was at the PTR symposium. I mean, I think, Delaine, that would be a good thing for us to do, is go back and look at the number of females that got their start. We had Margie Zesinger from IMG this year come and speak, and she was one of the top rated speakers. And so we're real proud of what we've done in terms of race and gender for the speakers at the PTR symposium.
That's great stuff, guys. We are right at 2:30, just a little over 2:30, so we will adjourn there. But we did get all the questions answered. I'd like to thank Delaine and Dan for coming in and having this great conversation. This was awesome. I mean, I learned a ton, and I'm sure that everybody on the who attended this session learned a lot too. So Dan, Delaine, we thank you so much, and for everybody listening, we definitely hope you guys will join in on other PTR sponsored sessions, as well as other sessions going on throughout the tennis conference for the next couple weeks. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Evan.
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
We appreciate having you, and anything we can do for you at PTR, give us a holler. Love to hear from you.
Awesome.